Good morning. This is Bob Passy again for Democracy Rising America. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on, radical change that's going on right in front of our eyes. We are basically back to tyranny. We have a tyrant for president. It's about his personal whims. It's about his arbitrary use of his power. It's cruel and tyrannical. The ironic thing is that that's exactly what we were trying to get away from when the American Revolution was going on, and we succeeded for a while, but we seem to have drifted back to that place. And it isn't because the people have been desiring a tyrant. He's acting as though he's some sort of emperor, and of course we do have an empire. We have troops all over the world. We have observation. We have drones and we have satellites watching everything. And in whether they call it that or not, we're kind of policing the world, making sure that it works out for us in our way, and pretty much willing to either intimidate with military or economic force, or to go to war, to make sure that things turn out that satisfy the American empire. It's a sad comment on where we have gone, but it is where the neoliberal economics has taken us, because we've taken the heart out of this country when we discarded democracy and we put the economics above and everything else. But back to the tyrant. It's interesting when you have a strong man, and I'm almost right at the beginning. I said, my goodness, his poses look too much like Mussolini. If you've seen any of the films of Mussolini when he was in power in Italy, or even after the war. Well, after the war he was dead, but any of those things in the history books, he always strikes that pose like I am in charge of everything and don't mess with me. So we have this tyrant, and it's sort of like you might use the analogy of we've all been going to this congregation in this church that was called American Democracy. And they keep changing the clergy. For a while, there are times when the clergy clearly thought that the rich were better than anybody else, and we should pay attention to that. But there are times, like Lincoln and FDR, where it was clear that the people mattered. And since then, since probably the end of the 60s even, the 70s, 80s, we've been slowly creeping back to a much more authoritarian kind of clergy who have been telling us that we ought to be paying attention to the economic needs, and it isn't about whether we should take care of our people, it's whether we can afford to take care of our people. And of course, as the wealthy begin to disengage from the tax system and hardly pay any taxes, it was clear that the direction of the government was to take care of those people and not take care of the general citizenry. But lately we have gone to the logical conclusion of all that, and we have somehow managed to elect someone who's a tyrant. He does not, and it's quite amazing. It's like an accident. You can't take your eyes off of it, or too many of the people can't take their eyes off of it. I've never really been a fan of accidents, but a lot of people just can't take their eyes off of it. It's the destruction of it all, and his willingness to basically dole out quick vengeance, fire him or put him in prison or kill him even. He's like the Old Testament God, with vengeance in his eyes, and being willing to just ignore all the rules. It's like that new clergy is saying, all those rules that you thought you were supposed to follow, you don't need to, or I don't need to anyway. And I will tell you what to do, and I will tell you how to do it, and I will show you that I can get the economy working. And he may well do that, but I would say at what expense? The real issue is that when we have reached the epitome of autocratic rule, which is a tyranny, when are we going to find the will, not political will, the individual will, to get up out of our seats in that church and walk out the door? There are other churches down the street, and if we didn't turn a deaf ear to it, we would hear that there are many people who have already left that church, the church where this tyrant is preaching his message, and have gone down to another church. And if you listen carefully enough, you can hear the music of democracy coming out of that church. Anyway, it's like we're mesmerized by his willingness to step on anything and intimidated a bit, and that's of course what tyrants do. Anyway, it's just some food for thought, and I hope we think quickly and hard, because if this continues, we will not have anything left, no pieces left to pick up anymore. Anyway, again, this is Bob Passy for Democracy Rising America. Talk to you later. Bye.